I woke up to find 47 luxury cars in my storage facility. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys worth millions. The kicker, not mine, not my customers, but belonging to rich HOA members who paid me. Zero. Their president literally wrote, "We allowed members to use your storage facility." Like my business was their personal garage, my paying customers couldn't even get their stuff, so I used Texas law, waited 30 days, then held an auction and sold everything, every single car, 100% legal drop. A comment where you're watching from this. Revenge story is about to get insane. 30 days until I flipped the entire chessboard. My name is Ryan Cooper, and 5 years ago I made what seemed like a brilliant business decision. I'd spent 10 years working as a logistics coordinator, managing warehouses and shipping operations for other people, always dreaming of running my own business, when I found out about a 99-year land lease available inside Rosewood Heights, an upscale neighborhood in Houston, Texas. I jumped at the chance. The price was incredible, almost too good to be true, because the land was far from the city center and surrounded by wealthy homeowners who probably wouldn't need budget storage, but I saw opportunity where others saw isolation. Cooper Storage Solutions was born. 50 climate-controlled units that would serve customers both inside and outside the gated community. I remember signing that contract feeling like I'd finally made it. If only I'd read the fine print more carefully. If only I'd known that one vague clause about shared community amenities would nearly destroy everything I'd built. For 5 years, business was good, really good. I had a mix of customers, some from Rosewood Heights, storing their seasonal decorations and overflow furniture, but mostly regular folks from outside the neighborhood who needed affordable, secure storage. My assistant, Sophia Martinez, and I ran a tight ship. She was 28 sharp as a tack and had this uncanny ability to remember every customer's name and what they stored. We'd built something special together. The HOA mostly left us alone, aside from the occasional complaint about delivery trucks or reminders about keeping the exterior aesthetically pleasing. I'd never even met the HOA president, some woman named Patricia Ashford, who apparently ruled Rosewood Heights with an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove that changed on a humid Tuesday morning. In July, I arrived at 6:30 a.m. as usual, coffee in hand, ready to start the day. But something was wrong. The parking lot was full, and I mean full of luxury cars. What I saw in the security footage made my blood boil. At exactly midnight, a convoy of luxury cars had rolled up, leading. The pack was Patricia Ashford herself, 48 years old, dressed like she'd just come from a country club gala. She punched in the master access code and started directing cars into my units like a parking valet. I watched in horror as car after car rolled into units that paying customers were supposed to be using. Some units already had customer belongings in them. Did they care? Of course not. They just shoved boxes aside, stacked furniture against walls, and squeezed those cars in wherever they'd fit by morning. More residents arrived. Derek Stone, a 45-year-old man with a HOA boss license plate, nearly ran me over trying to get his Hummer inside. When I protested, he laughed and drove through my landscaping to get around me. The police arrived 20 minutes after I called. Officer Johnson reviewed my lease agreement and shook his head. "Sir, this appears to be a civil matter. The HOA has provided documentation showing they've authorized community use of this facility." Patricia appeared at my elbow with a folder of papers. "Mr. Cooper, if you'd read your lease agreement carefully, you'd see that it includes a clause about shared community amenities. The HOA board met last week and voted unanimously. Resolution 47B officially designates Cooper Storage Solutions as a community storage facility available to all Rosewood Heights residents in good standing." My jaw dropped. Storage units aren't amenities, they're my business. Patricia's smile was cold. Tennis courts are amenities, swimming. Pools are amenities, and now storage is an amenity. We've allocated units 1 through 25 for board members and 26 through 50 for premium HOA members. That's when I saw Mrs. Chen, one of my long-time customers, standing by Unit 7 with tears in her eyes. She was 73 years old and had been storing her late husband's belongings there. Now a bright yellow Lamborghini was parked where those memories used to be. "Mr. Cooper," she said softly. They threw his things in the dumpster, his photos, his books, 40 years of marriage, and they just threw it away. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I looked at Patricia's smug face at Derek, taking selfies with his Hummer at the parade of entitled residents, treating my life's work like their personal garage. My hands clenched into fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. I pulled out my phone and typed in a search. Texas storage laws. My eyes lit up as I read one particular line. Oh, really? A cold smile spread across my face. "Patricia, you just made a fatal mistake. You allowed them to use my storage." Well, then what happens next? Stay tuned to find out what Texas law allows me to do. 29 days until everything changed. I spent that entire night diving deep into Texas property law law, and specifically storage facility regulations. My experience as a logistics coordinator had taught me one crucial thing. Documentation is everything. Every shipment, every warehouse receipt, every delivery, confirmation paperwork could make or break you. And now sitting in my sweltering office at 3 a.m., with nothing but a desk lamp and pure rage to keep me company, I was about to use that knowledge to fight back. The Texas Property Code was very specific about storage facilities. When someone stores property in a facility and fails to pay the required fees, the facility owner has very specific rights. The magic words that made my heart race were these: after 30 days of non-payment, the facility owner may sell the contents of the unit at public auction. Patricia Ashford thought she was so clever with her HOA resolution, but she'd made one critical error by putting it in writing, that the HOA was allowing residents to use my facility. She'd created a paper trail. They were now officially tenants, and tenants have to pay rent. The next morning, Sophia arrived to find me surrounded by legal books, empty coffee cups, and printed copies of every storage law in Texas. "Boss, did you sleep at all?" she asked, concerned. I must have looked insane, red eyes. Yesterday's clothes, probably, smelling like a combination of coffee and desperation. "Sophia, I need you to help me document everything, every car, every item, every single thing these people have put in our units. Take photos, write descriptions, get license plate numbers, everything." She didn't question it, just audited and got to work. That's why Sophia was invaluable. While she worked on documentation, I started calculating fees. The standard rate for a climate-controlled unit in Houston was $500 per month. Patricia and her cronies had taken over 25 units. That was $12,500 per month they owed me. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember that HOA resolution Patricia was so proud of, buried in the paperwork? Sophia discovered something incredible. Boss, Sophia ran into my office waving a document. "Look at this. The HOA actually allocated funds to pay for the community storage." My heart jumped. Had they actually planned to pay fair rates? Then I saw the number $1, not per month, not per week, $1 per year. Sophia's voice shook with excitement. They're paying $1 annually for storage worth hundreds of thousands. I grabbed my calculator. $1 divided by 12 months equals 8 cents per month. They were paying me 8 cents per month for premium storage that should cost $500. The sheer arrogance of it took my breath away. But it was also perfect. They'd established a payment rate they'd acknowledged they were using. My services, they'd put it all in writing in trying to exploit a loophole. They'd created a paper trail that would hang them. Patricia wasn't expecting the certified letters that arrived at every HOA member's house. 3 days later, I'd spent those days crafting the perfect legal notice of delinquent payment for storage services. Amount due $500 per unit per month. Total past due $500 payment must be received within 30 days of this notice to avoid disposal of stored property through public auction. The beauty of certified mail is that it requires a signature. I had proof that every single person received their notice. Derek Stone tried to tear his up in front of the postal worker, who calmly informed him that destroying mail was a federal offense. The look on his face was priceless. Patricia called an emergency HOA meeting that night. According to Harold Morrison, a 62-year-old retired lawyer who lived in Rosewood Heights, she stood at that podium and literally laughed at my notices. He's bluffing. She told the crowd, "What's he going to do? Auction off our cars, please? My nephew is a lawyer. This is just sad posturing from a small business owner who doesn't understand his place." Patricia's counterattack was swift and vicious. First, she spread rumors that my business was failing, that I was desperate for money, that the facility was infested with rats and mold. Complete lies, but effective. Some of my regular customers started calling worried about their belongings. Then she organized safety inspections, basically sending HOA members to harass my remaining customers during business hours. They'd show up with clipboards, take photos, ask invasive questions, and generally make everyone uncomfortable. I lost 40% of my regular customers in 1 week. The financial hit was devastating, but I held on to one thought: 23 more days as a petty revenge. I turned off the climate control for the units the HOA was using. It was July in Houston. The temperature inside those units would hit over 100 degrees by noon. Derek Stone came banging on my door 3 hours later, face red and sweating. "Turn the AC back on, my leather seats are going to crack." I smiled sweetly. "Climate control is a premium service, Derek. Would you like to upgrade your payment plan that evening?" I sat in my empty facility, listening to the sound of cooling engines in the non-climate controlled units. For a moment, I wondered if it would be easier to just give up. But then I thought about Mrs. Chen's tears, about 5 years of 16-hour days building this business. No, Patricia Ashford had no idea who she was messing with. Sophia knocked on my door, holding coffee and determination. "Boss, I've been thinking, if we're doing this auction, we need to do it right. Make it big public, so they can never claim improper procedure." I smiled for the first time in days. "Sophia, have I ever told you you're getting a raise when this is over?" She grinned back. "Just promise me." I get to see Patricia's face when she realizes what's happening. 23 days until we show them what happens when you mess with the wrong small business owner. 20 days and the cards were starting to flip. Sophia's discovery about the $1 payment lit a fire under me that burned away any remaining doubts. $1 per year, divided by 12 months, meant they owed me essentially the full monthly rate, minus 8. My certified letters had been delivered. The 30-day clock was ticking, and now it was time to prepare for war. But this wouldn't be a battle of fists or anger. This would be a masterclass in malicious compliance. I contacted 3 different auction houses in Houston. Explaining my situation carefully, 2 of them laughed and hung up the third run by an old-timer named Samuel Brooks, who'd been in the auction business for 40 years, listened to my entire story, and then said something. "I'll never forget, son. In my 4 decades of selling other people's stuff, this might be the most beautiful case of justified revenge I've ever heard. Count me in." Samuel wasn't just any auctioneer. He was licensed, bonded, and had connections throughout Texas. When he agreed, to handle my auction. I knew we were playing in the big leagues. Now the preparation was meticulous. Sophia and I created a comprehensive catalogue of every single item in those 25 units, not just the cars, everything designer handbags, carelessly tossed in corners, golf clubs worth more than most people's monthly salary artwork, that someone had shoved behind a Ferrari. The crown jewel was in Unit 31, a massive safe that someone had left partially open, revealing stacks of documents. Inside, I didn't touch it, that would be trespassing on their property, but I made sure to photograph that tantalizing glimpse of papers for the auction catalogue lot. 57 large safe containing unknown documents. Buyer takes all contents, as is the mystery. Would drive bidding through the roof. We posted flyers everywhere. Luxury car auction, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, and more public welcome cash and certified funds. Only coffee shops, community boards, online marketplaces, anywhere potential bidders might see them while we prepared. Patricia escalated her campaign. She hired a team of lawyers from Dallas who sent threatening letters daily, cease and desist, torturous interference with community property violation of implied contract terms. Samuel Brooks looked at one of the letters and chuckled. Boy, they're throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks. You know what that means, they're scared. But the lawyers were overconfident. They assumed they were dealing with some small-time storage facility owner who could be bullied into submission. They didn't bother to actually check if my auction was legal. Big mistake. The turning point came when Harold Morrison approached me at the local Waffle House at 2:30 in the morning. I'd been going there to avoid the HOA spies who seemed to be everywhere during normal hours. Harold looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder as he slid into the booth across from me. Mr. Cooper, I need to tell you something. I've been on the HOA board for 5 years. And what Patricia's doing, it's not just wrong, it's criminal. He pulled out a USB drive and pushed it across the table. $2.3 million. That's how much Patricia has embezzled from the HOA funds over the past 3 years. New cars, for her daughter, a personal butler, plastic surgery, vacations to Europe, it's all there. Emails, bank transfers, falsified board resolutions. My hands shook as I took the USB. Harold, why are you giving this to me? He sighed heavily, because when I was a practicing lawyer, I believed in justice. Patricia made me sign off on budgets I knew were fraudulent. She threatened to reveal some personal matters about my son if I didn't comply, but watching her destroy your business just because she can, that's too far. And there's something else that's safe in Unit 31. It belongs to Patricia, and I have a feeling what's in there is even worse than what's on this drive. The next morning, Sophia noticed my changed demeanor. Immediately, boss, you look like you've seen a ghost or won the lottery. I can't tell which. I showed her what Harold had given us. Her eyes went wide as she scrolled through the evidence. This is boss. We need to call the FBI or something. But I had a better idea. No, Sophia, we're going to do this by the book. The auction is in 17 days. When we open that safe in front of hundreds of witnesses, live streaming to thousands more, Patricia won't be able to hide anymore. Word about the auction started spreading beyond Rosewood Heights Channel. 7's investigative reporter, Amanda Walsh, called my office. Mr. Cooper, is it true that you're auctioning off HOA members' luxury cars because they won't pay storage fees? I chose my words carefully. I'm conducting a legal auction of abandoned property. In accordance with Texas Property Code, all proper notices have been given. She loved it. This is the kind of David versus Goliath story our viewers eat up. Can we film the auction? Patricia's panic was becoming visible. She called emergency meeting. After emergency meeting, demanding each household contribute $25,000 to pay off the storage fees. The problem was most residents had thought they were getting free storage. The HOA started fracturing. Half still supported Patricia out of loyalty or fear. The other half were asking uncomfortable questions about where the reserve funds had gone. Derek Stone was starting to crack too. I saw him at the gas station and he actually looked worried. "Hey, Cooper," he called out, trying to sound casual. "This auction thing, you're not really going to go through with it, right?" I smiled pleasantly. "Derek, you have 14 days to pay $1,500 for the 3 units your Hummer is occupying." His face went purple. 3 units. It's one vehicle parked diagonally across 3 units. Feel free to move it after you pay. He stormed off, but I could see fear in his eyes that evening. I stood in my facility and felt strangely calm. In 2 weeks, this would all be over. Sophia found me doing my nightly walk through, boss. What if they try something desperate? I've been thinking the same thing. That's why I've installed extra security cameras and why I've been live streaming daily updates. Started with just a few viewers, but we're up to 5. C20 now. People love drama, especially when it involves rich people getting their comeuppance. I announced on that night's live stream, 15 days left. In 15 days, everything behind these doors goes to the highest bidder. And trust me, folks, Unit 31 contains something that will change Rosewood Heights forever. The viewer count jumped to 10,000 in real time. Comments flooded in. Is this real? I found my HOA president in this story. Storage gate is trending. Oh, they had no idea what was coming. Harold's USB drive was safely in my bank deposit box. The auction was scheduled. And Patricia Ashford was about to learn what happens when you declare war on someone who knows how to fight with paperwork instead of fists. 10 days, the whole country was watching. The live stream numbers were exploding beyond anything I could have imagined. What started as 5,000 ultra viewers had grown to 50,000, then 200,000 every evening at 8 p.m. I'd stand in front of the storage facility and give updates. Day 20 of 30, Patricia Ashford and the Rosewood Heights HOA still refused to pay their storage fees. The auction is in 10 days, and yes, everything will be sold to the highest bidder. The comment section was pure chaos. People were finding their own HOA horror stories in mine. Someone wrote, "OMG, that's my storage unit in the background," which got 50,000 likes. Another comment that went viral, "I just realized this is happening in my city. I'm definitely coming to this auction." The hashtag StorageGate was trending nationally. News outlets from across the country were calling, but the real bombshell was what viewers started doing on their own. They began investigating Patricia Ashford online, digging up public records, finding discrepancies in HOA filings. The internet had turned into my personal army of researchers. Patricia was in full panic mode now, according to Harold, who was still secretly feeding me information. She was demanding every household contribute $25,000 immediately to pay off the storage fees. "It's for the good of the community," she told them. "We cannot allow this small-time nobody to humiliate Rosewood Heights." But cracks were showing. Several board members were asking why the HOA reserve fund couldn't cover the fees. Where had the $3 million in reserves gone? Why were there so many emergency expenses over the past 3 years? Patricia's standard response, "That's a matter for executive session," wasn't satisfying anyone anymore. The community Facebook page, which Patricia didn't know I was monitoring through a fake account, was full of arguments. Half the residents still supported her, but the other half was starting to ask very uncomfortable questions. One resident posted, "Has anyone else noticed Patricia's daughter driving a different luxury car every month? Where does a college student get that money?" Derek Stone was unraveling faster than anyone expected. 3 days after my run-in with him at the gas station, he showed up at my office door at 11 p.m. I watched him on the security camera for 5 minutes before answering. He kept looking over his shoulder, pacing, running his hands through his hair. When I finally opened the door, he practically fell inside. "Cooper, we need to talk. Look, I know I've been a jerk, but Patricia, she's got something on all of us. She made us do this." I kept my expression neutral. "Made you park your Hummer in my facility?" He shook his head frantically. "No, you don't understand. The whole storage thing was her idea. She said it would force you out, that she had a buyer for the land who would pay 10 times what you pay in lease fees. This was all a plan to break your business, so you default on the lease." I hit record on my phone without him noticing, and you all just went along with it. Derek's laugh was bitter. "She's got dirt on everyone. Affairs, tax issues, things our kids did that got covered up. She runs Rosewood Heights like the mafia. This was bigger than I'd thought." "Derek, why are you telling me this?" Now he looked defeated, because I just found out what she has on me isn't even real. She photoshopped documents to make it look like I embezzled from my company. I never did it, but who's going to believe me against the HOA president with evidence? I'm done being her puppet. I made a decision that would prove crucial later, Derek. If you're serious about breaking free from Patricia, I need you to do something. Go to the auction bid on your own. Hummer, pay for it. Fair and square, show everyone that at least one person in Rosewood Heights has integrity. He nodded slowly. "You know what? Yeah, I'll do that. And Cooper, I'm sorry about your customers' stuff. Mrs. Chen's husband's things that was wrong after he left. I sat in my office feeling like I'd just witnessed a small miracle. Derek Stone, the HOA boss, had just grown a conscience. The pressure was getting to Patricia in visible ways during a live news interview about the storage dispute. She made a critical error. The reporter asked her, "Mrs. Ashford, why doesn't the HOA simply pay the storage fees if the amount is so trivial?" Patricia's mask slipped for just a second, because it's not about the money, it's about principle, that man thinks he can operate a commercial business. In our community, without our permission, we allowed him to exist here, and we can unallow it. The reporter looked shocked. "But isn't Mr. Cooper's business legitimate? He has a legal lease." Patricia's face went red. "Legal doesn't mean right. We make the rules in Rosewood Heights." The clip went viral. Within hours, memes of Patricia saying we allowed him to exist spread across social media. Someone auto-tuned it into a song. The damage to her reputation was catastrophic. But Patricia had one more card to play, and it was a dangerous one. 5 days before the auction at 3:30 our security cameras captured everything. Patricia arrived with a moving crew, not local guys, but professionals from out of state. They had a truck equipment, and most importantly, the master key codes that Patricia had kept from her HOA access. She was going to try to remove everything before the auction could happen. What she didn't know was that I had anticipated this. Every single vehicle had been moved to units with new locks that only I had keys to instead of cars. She found signs. In each unit, "Smile, you're on camera. These vehicles have been secured. Pending auction, attempted removal constitutes theft. Local law enforcement has been notified." The look on her face when she read that sign was priceless. Pure rage mixed with dawning realization that she'd been outsmarted. The police arrived 15 minutes later. I'd alerted them to be on standby. Patricia tried to explain that she was just retrieving HOA members' property, but the officers weren't buying it. "Ma'am, there's an active legal dispute here. You can't just take property that's subject to a lien. They didn't arrest her. Breaking and entering is hard to prove when someone has keys, but they made her and her crew leave. The entire incident was captured on my cameras and streamed live to my now 1 million followers. The comments exploded. She really tried to steal everything. This is better than Netflix 5 days until auction day that morning. I posted the footage with a simple caption, 5 days left. Patricia Ashford just tried to steal back the cars in the middle of the night. She failed. The auction continues as scheduled. See you all on Saturday, then something unexpected happened. Sophia rushed into frame during the live stream, her face pale. Ryan, look at the photos. From Unit 31, she showed me her phone. In our latest documentation photos, the safe was still partially open. Invisible inside was a handwritten letter at the top. Barely legible were the words, "Last Will and Testament of William Sterling." My eyes widened. Sophia Patricia's husband was William Sterling. He supposedly died 3 years ago. Sophia's voice shook. What if he didn't? 2 days? The storm was about to break. The revelation about William Sterling's will sent shockwaves through our investigation. I immediately called Harold Morrison, waking him at 5 all day. Harold, I need to know everything about William Sterling's death." There was a long pause before Harold responded. "That's the thing, Ryan. None of us ever saw a body. Patricia said he died while visiting family in Florida, that he was cremated there, that she scattered his ashes at sea. We sent flowers to a funeral home, but there was never a service in Rosewood Heights. She was so grief-stricken that no one wanted to push for details. My mind was racing, and she inherited everything. Harold's voice was grim. 50 million, the house, the investments, everything. She had power of attorney and a will that left it all to her. But Ryan, if there's another will in that safe, he didn't need to finish. If Patricia had hidden a more recent will, she wasn't just a thief. She was potentially guilty of fraud on a massive scale. The national media descended on Rosewood Heights like locusts. CNN, Fox, NBC, every major network wanted a piece of the story. The quiet gated community was suddenly swarming with news vans and reporters. Patricia tried to maintain control by banning media from the premises, but it backfired spectacularly. The reporters just interviewed residents at the gate, and many of them were ready to talk. "She's ruled this place like a dictator for 3 years, one woman said. Her face blurred for privacy. We were all too scared to speak up, but now we want answers. The HOA board called an emergency meeting to vote on removing Patricia as president. According to my sources, it was chaos. Patricia screamed at board members, threatened lawsuits, and even threw a glass of water at Harold when he made the motion to remove her. The vote failed by 1 vote. She still had just enough loyalists to cling to power. Meanwhile, my live stream audience had grown to 2 million followers. People were flying in from across the country to attend the auction hotels in Houston. Were reporting unusual bookings. Are you here for a convention? Desk clerks would ask, no, we're here for the storage auction, became the common response. Samuel Brooks, my auctioneer, was in his element. Ryan, in 40 years of auctions, I've never seen anything like this. We're going to need crowd control, security, maybe even a bigger venue. We decided to hold the auction in the parking lot of my facility with overflow viewing on giant screens. I rented the city, required special event permits, which I gladly paid for. This wasn't just an auction anymore, it was a cultural phenomenon. I survived Storage Gate 2024 and Patricia allowed this to happen. Someone was selling popcorn outside the Rosewood Heights entrance with a sign, "Get your snacks for the show." Patricia's desperation reached new heights the night before the auction at 2 a.m. She showed up at my facility, alone, no lawyers, no muscle, just her. I watched on the cameras as she stood at the gate, then did something unexpected. She called my personal cell phone. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Ryan, please, we need to talk. Face to face. No cameras, no lawyers, just us." Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was stupidity, but I agreed. I met her at the gate, keeping it locked between us in the harsh security lights. She looked older. Defeated, the perfect makeup was gone, the designer clothes replaced with a simple tracksuit. "Ryan, you don't understand what you're doing that safe. There are things in there that could destroy lives, not just mine, innocent people." I studied her face like William Sterling. She flinched, as if I'd slapped her. "You don't know what you're talking about," but her reaction told me everything. "Patricia, here's what I know. You used your position to steal from the HOA. You tried to destroy my business to make a profit. You threw away an elderly woman's precious memories like garbage. Whatever is in that safe, whatever secrets you're hiding, you brought this on yourself." Her mask finally crumbled completely. "He's not dead," she blurted out, then immediately covered her mouth. My blood ran cold, what tears streaming down her face. Patricia confessed, "William isn't dead. He's in a memory care facility in Miami. He has dementia. I couldn't take care of him and maintain our lifestyle, so I told everyone he died, took control of his assets, and put him somewhere no one would find him. The will in that safe, it's his real will. He left everything to charity, not me. I was going to get nothing." The enormity of her confession hit me like a truck. This wasn't just fraud or embezzlement anymore. This was elder abuse, identity, theft, and who knew what else, Patricia? You need to turn yourself in. This is beyond storage fees. Now, she laughed bitterly. "Turn myself in? Do you know what happens to people like me in prison? I'd rather die." Then her eyes turned, calculating. "But I can make you rich, Ryan, really rich. Call off the auction. Give me the safe. I'll pay you $5 million cash. You can expand your business, buy a house, never worry about money again." I stared at her in disbelief. Even now at rock bottom, she thought money could solve everything. "Patricia, you just confessed to faking your husband's death on camera." I pointed to the security camera above us with audio. "This live stream has 2.5 million viewers." It's over the color drained from her face as she realized what had happened. In her desperation, she'd forgotten about the cameras that had been documenting everything for weeks. The chat was exploding. "OMG, she admitted it. Someone called the cops. He's alive." Within minutes, police sirens filled the air. Patricia tried to run but didn't get far. In her designer heels, the arrest was captured from multiple angles: news helicopters, security cameras, and dozens of cell phones. The police led her away, she looked back at me with a mixture of hatred and something else, respect, fear. I couldn't tell Harold. Morrison appeared at my side, looking shell-shocked. "Brian, what have we done?" I put my hand on his shoulder. "We told the truth." "Harold, whatever happens next, we told the truth." The sun was rising over Rosewood Heights, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In 12 hours, the auction would begin. But now it wasn't just about cars and storage fees. It was about justice. For William Sterling, for Mrs. Chen, for everyone Patricia had wronged. Sophia appeared with coffee and a tired smile. "Boss, the news is calling this the biggest scandal in HOA history. You're trending worldwide." I took the coffee gratefully. Let them call it whatever they want. Tomorrow, we finish this auction. Day dawn broke clear and bright over Houston by 8 a.m. The crowd was already massive. Houston PD had to close nearby streets as thousands of people converged on Cooper Storage Solutions. News helicopters circled overhead like mechanical vultures. Samuel Brooks stood on the makeshift auctioneer's platform, reviewing his notes with the intensity of a general before battle. "Ryan," he said, adjusting his microphone, "you ready for this?" I looked out at the sea of faces, the news cameras, the giant screens showing everything to the overflow crowd. As ready as anyone can be for something like this. The auction was scheduled to start at 10 a.m. But the energy was already electric. Food trucks had appeared overnight. Someone was selling those. Patricia allowed. This T-shirts for $20 each. It looked more like a festival than an auction. Except for the palpable tension in the air. Everyone knew this wasn't really about cars anymore. At 9:30 a police escort arrived. My heart jumped. Had Patricia made bail? But when the car door opened, an elderly man emerged, supported by two nurses, William Sterling, alive and confused, but definitely breathing. The crowd went silent. Harold had worked through the night with authorities to bring him from Miami. He deserves to see justice done. Harold told me William was placed in a special viewing area with medical support. He didn't seem to understand where he was, but when someone mentioned Patricia's name, his eyes flickered with recognition. "Patricia?" he asked softly. "Where's my wife?" It was heartbreaking. At exactly 10 a.m., Samuel Brooks banged his gavel. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most unprecedented auction in Texas history. Before we begin, let me remind everyone that all sales are final payment is due immediately. And yes, everything you've heard about this situation is true." The crowd roared. He started with the smaller items, designer handbags from Unit 12, golf clubs from Unit 15. The bidding was fierce. That hideous, abstract painting, someone had stored it, sold for $10,000, probably because it was part of history. Now, people weren't just buying items, they were buying pieces of the story. Then came the cars, Lot 23, 2022, Ferrari 488, Spider Red, stored in Unit 15. The bidding started at 50,000 and climbed rapidly, 100,000, 150, 200 when the hammer fell at 220,000. The buyer was a young tech entrepreneur who immediately announced he'd display it in his office with a plaque telling the whole story. Derek Stone's aha moment came when his Hummer went up for bid. True to his word, he stood up and bid on his own vehicle. $500, he called out. The crowd laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Derek was serious. "That's what I owe in storage fees. I'm paying my debt." Bids came in higher, but something beautiful happened. The crowd started chanting, "Let him have it, let him have it." The other bidders withdrew. Samuel, with tears in his eyes, brought down the hammer, sold to Mr. Derek Stone for $500. The crowd erupted. In applause, Derek broke down crying. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for. Lot 57. Large, safe from Unit 31, contents unknown, sold as is. The bidding was insane. News organizations, private collectors, curiosity seekers, everyone wanted it. The price climbed 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. Finally, at $350,000, it sold to a consortium of news organizations who agreed to open it live on air. The safe was wheeled out to the center of the platform. A professional safecracker was standing by the crowd, held its breath as he worked. Click, click, click. The door swung open. On top were financial documents, evidence of Patricia's embezzlement laid out in her own handwriting. But beneath that was the real bombshell, William Sterling's actual will, dated just 1 month before his supposed death. In it, he left his entire fortune, $50 million, to various charities, not a penny to Patricia. But there was more, a letter in William's shaky handwriting. "If you're reading this, something has happened to me. I fear my wife Patricia is planning something. She's been acting strangely, asking me to sign papers, talking about powers of attorney. I love her, but I don't trust her anymore. Please make sure my wishes are carried out." The crowd exploded. People were crying, shouting, hugging strangers. William Sterling, watching from his chair, seemed to understand something important was happening. That's my letter," he said clearly, the fog lifting for just a moment. "I wrote that." Detail the FBI agents present immediately took possession of the documents. Patricia's empire built on lies and theft had crumbled completely. But the auction wasn't over. Item after item sold, each carrying its own story. The total reached $1 million then. 1.5 finally stopping at 1.8 million as the last item sold. I took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, every dollar from today's auction will be donated to the charities named in William Sterling's will. Patricia Ashford allowed the community to use my storage facility." Well, I held an auction and sold everything. The crowd went wild, but I wasn't done. This isn't just about storage units or HOA overreach. It's about what happens when good people stand up to corruption. It's about truth winning over lies. The aftermath was swift. Patricia was charged with elder abuse, fraud, embezzlement, and filing false death documents. Her lawyers abandoned her. Her remaining supporters melted away. Even her daughter, finally understanding where her cars came from, publicly disowned her. As the crowd dispersed and the news crews packed up, I stood in my empty facility with Sophia and Harold. We were exhausted but victorious. You know what the ironic part is? Harold said if Patricia had just paid the $500 per unit, none of this would have happened. Her greed exposed everything. Sophia laughed. "Karma doesn't need HOA approval. Right, boss?" I smiled, looking at my empty units. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding my business. Good customers like Mrs. Chen would come back. The facility would fill again with normal people, storing normal things. But today justice had been served in the most spectacular way possible as we locked up. My phone buzzed with a message. "Mr. Cooper, I represent a group of homeowners in Dallas dealing with a corrupt HOA. Could we talk?" I showed it to Sophia and Harold. We all laughed. "Maybe later," I said, deleting the message much. Later, 6 months later, the dust had settled, but the legend lived on. I stood in the office of the new Cooper Storage Solutions flagship facility, looking out at a thriving business that had grown beyond my wildest dreams. The original location in Rosewood Heights was busier than ever, but now I had 3 additional facilities across Houston. The irony wasn't lost on me. Patricia Ashford's attempt to destroy my business had ultimately made it stronger than ever. The morning news droned in. The background, another update on the criminal proceedings. Patricia Ashford appeared in court today for sentencing. The former HOA president was convicted on 15 counts, including elder abuse, fraud, and embezzlement. The judge sentenced her to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release. I didn't feel joy at her downfall, just a sense of completion. Justice had been served, garnished with a hefty side of karma. Sophia knocked and entered. "Now my full partner in the business, Ryan." You've got visitors behind her were Harold Morrison and, surprisingly, Derek Stone. But Derek looked different. Gone were the designer sunglasses and cocky attitude. He wore a simple uniform shirt with Cooper Storage Maintenance embroidered on it. As part of his plea deal for testifying against Patricia, he'd been sentenced to 2 years of community service, which I'd agreed to let him serve at my facility. "Morning, Mr. Cooper," Derek said, mopping his bucket in hand. It still felt surreal, hearing him call me that. Harold smiled warmly. "Ryan, I wanted to personally deliver this." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a formal letter from the new Rosewood Heights HOA, with Harold as president, thanking me for my service to the community and confirming the cancellation of Resolution 47B. "We've also voted to pay you a settlement for the damage to your business. It's not much, but it's what we can afford after recovering from Patricia's theft." I set the letter aside. "Harold, I told you I don't want any money from the HOA. The auction proceeds went to charity, and that's where they should stay." Harold's eyes misted. "You're a good man, Ryan Cooper." "Oh, and there's someone else here to see you." He stepped aside, revealing Mrs. Chen. She was carrying a box of homemade cookies and wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen, Mr. Cooper. "I wanted to thank you again after everything that happened. You gave me a free unit for a year to store my husband's things properly. You didn't have to do that." I hugged the elderly woman. "Mrs. Chen, your family here. You always have been." She pressed the cookies into my hands. "I watch your story on the YouTube. Sometimes my grandchildren can't believe their grandma was part of something so famous. They call me Storage Wars Grandma." Now we all laughed at that after my visitors left. I found Derek in the break room eating a simple sandwich instead of the gourmet meals he used to brag about. "How you holding up, Derek?" He looked up, and for once there was genuine emotion in his eyes. You know what's funny? I used to think having that Hummer with the HOA boss plate made me somebody. Now I'm mopping floors and cleaning units, and I feel more like a real person than I have in years. He paused, then added, "My ex-wife even talks to me now, says I'm different better." I sat down across from him. "Derek, when your community service is done, there might be a permanent job here if you want it. Everyone deserves a second chance." His eyes widened. "You'd do that after everything?" I shrugged. "Patricia's in prison. You're pushing a mop. I think we've all paid our prices. Time to move forward." The afternoon brought more good news. Channel 7 was doing a follow-up segment, and Amanda Walsh had brought a special guest, William Sterling. He was in a wheelchair now, but his eyes were clear and alert thanks to proper medical care. "Mr. Cooper," he said, his voice stronger than 6 months ago, "I wanted to thank you personally because of what you did. I'm getting the care I need. My money is going to help people like I wanted. And I got to see justice done. Not many people get that chance." The interview was emotional. William talked about watching the auction live stream from his care facility, about the moment he realized people were fighting for him. "I'd given up," he admitted. But seeing all those people stand up to Patricia, seeing Mr. Cooper risk everything for the truth, it gave me hope again. As evening approached, I did my usual walkthrough of the original facility. Every unit was full again, but now with normal customers, storing normal things. No luxury cars, no mysterious safes, no HOA drama, just regular people trusting me with their belongings. In Unit 31, the infamous safe unit, a young couple was storing baby furniture for their next child. Life had returned to normal, or as normal as it could be. After becoming internationally famous, my phone buzzed constantly with interview requests, book deal offers, and, yes, messages from people dealing with their own HOA nightmares. I ignored most of them. The storage business was my calling, not becoming some kind of HOA vigilante that night. We held our first annual Justice BBQ in the facility parking lot. Everyone was invited, customers, neighbors, even reporters who'd become friends during the ordeal. Harold manned the grill while Sophia organized games for the kids. Derek, still in his maintenance uniform, helped set up tables and chairs without being asked. The highlight was when Mrs. Chen arrived in the Hummer she'd bought at the auction for $500. She'd had it painted bright pink and removed the HOA boss plates, replacing them with Karma. "I only drive it once a week," she explained, "but Patricia's house is on my route to the grocery store. I make sure to honk when I pass." The party lasted until late, with people sharing their own HOA stories, laughing about the absurdity of it all, and celebrating the power of community, real community, not the artificial kind Patricia had tried to enforce. As the crowd thinned out, I stood with Sophia and Harold. looking at what we'd built from the ashes of Patricia's scheme. You know what's funny? I said Patricia was right about one thing. This place is a community amenity. Now, just not the way she intended. Harold raised his beer to Ryan Cooper, who showed us that sometimes the best revenge is just following the rules. Sophia added to justice served at auction prices. We clink-ticked bottles and laughed in the distance. I could see the Rosewood Heights sign now under new management that actually cared about its residents. Patricia Ashford had allowed her greed to destroy her. She'd allowed her crimes to be exposed, and I had simply held an auction and sold everything exactly like I'd promised. As I locked up that night, I found a handwritten note tucked under my office door. Mr. Cooper, thank you for showing us that bullies don't always win. You gave us hope. A grateful neighbor. I smiled, pocketed the note, and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new customers, new stories, but tonight I was content knowing that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys actually do win. And if you're ever dealing with a HOA that thinks they can walk all over, you remember this story. Remember that karma doesn't need HOA approval. And remember that sometimes the best way to fight back is to follow the rules better than they do. Thanks for watching. Everyone, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this wild ride. And if you see Patricia in prison, tell her Ryan Cooper says hello after. All she allowed this to happen.